In order for us to get a book published, it really goes through a very long, meticulous editorial and production process.
I do the developmental editing on books. So what that means is that I look for authors who are saying interesting things, writing interesting things.
I think I help find and edit resources that help our readers develop a deeper relationship with God. And that's the purpose of the church, right?
Well, the first thing I look for is who are the audience that this website is for, because that makes a huge difference how the website needs to be presented.
How do we find new music that perhaps is adding to a repertoire?
The process begins with the idea, the concept.
You have to really detail what your thinking is and detail who the audience is and who the user is and who's the purchaser. Those things have to go in very early into the thinking of my idea that's on the back of a cocktail napkin.
It's time to contract, and it's a lot of the business of getting authors settled and scheduling and so forth.
We get to read through it cold and see if it'll fly, and then we talk about its suitability, whether or not it needs some text fixes or someone else might need to look at something on a compositional level.
We get several thousand pieces a year, as is the case with all music for liturgy. It has to be driven by the text.
What's important to me is to try to maintain the voice of whoever has written what they've written for us.
In conjunction with developing the text, we also have to develop images and illustrations that also help to catechize and to teach.
I've had the privilege of working with some wonderful writers and some wonderful artists who take their faith into their work. And you can see it's evident in the way they talk about it, in the way they write, in the way they put themselves into the images that they create.
There's editing the words so that everything reads nicely and is understandable, but there's also how all of the components work as a whole.
You feel a real hands-on connection as a designer, that you are physically doing something hopefully to help God's people.
I get to be creative and work with the designer and help her choose color schemes. I get to say, well, this is coming out in Advent, so let's try and stick with pinks and purples.
I love seeing an idea that somebody has for a visual turn into like a finished product.
There's still a lot of back and forth and feedback.
We need to gain permissions for things, so even if it's a psalm, if it's lectionary text, that has to go through another layer of permissions.
I like to keep a positive attitude and open mindset because the requirements can and may change. As always, it happens.
So knowing that I'm part of a bigger team, knowing that whatever I'm doing on a page with a red pen, or it's gonna be transformed, but thanks to the work of many other people.
There's something wonderful about being that behind-the-scenes person who helps other people have their texts and tunes embraced by a congregation.
We're bringing people closer to Christ. How good is that?
Every now and then when I am somewhere, somebody will come up and say how much a particular text means to them. I say thank you to them, thank you to the Holy Spirit.